Hello there, everyone. How have you been? I've been good. That's a little bit of a hint about today's lesson. Today we're talking about have been, had been, and has been. So, how is your Golden Week going? We weren't supposed to have a lesson this week, but I thought we should because we're new to these online lessons. So, we're just doing the Thursday with the two lessons. And then next week, it'll be back to a normal 2-day-a-week schedule. So, Golden Week, what have you been up to? Are you bored at home? Have you been busy with work? Have you done anything fun? For me, it's been pretty good. The funnest thing so far was I got a haircut. So here it is. What do you think? I actually do this style of haircut every Golden Week. It's kind of a tradition for me and my family. So this week we are talking about have been, has been, and had been. Let's have a quick look. Have been, has been, and had been. Okay, we're going to start with have been and has been. Now they are called present perfect tense. And what that means is that they are used with something that started in the past and is still happening. So for an example, I have been living in Japan for a long time. What that means is I started living in Japan a long time ago, and I'm still living in Japan. I continue to live in Japan. I have not stopped living in Japan. I have been living in Japan for a long time. Now, when we are using I, we say have been. I have been living in Japan for a long time. When it's you, we, or they, we also say have been. I have been. You have been. We have been. They have been. But when it's he, she, or it, we change it to has been. He has been. She has been. It has been. I have been playing baseball for 7 years. You have been to Paris many times. They have been shopping. We have been working hard. He has been well. She has been a nurse for 21 years. It has been a difficult year so far. Next, we're going to talk about had been. And had been is called past perfect tense. Had been is used when an action happened before another action in the past. So for example, I had been living in Africa about a year when I decided to come back to Saga. I had been living in Africa. I'm not living there now because I decided to come back. So, after about 1 year in Africa, I decided to come back. I had been living there, but I'm no longer living there now. I lived in Africa in the past, and I decided to come back to Saga in the past. Living in Africa is finished now, and deciding to move back to Saga is also finished now. These ones are quite simple. They're not difficult because everything becomes had been. I had been, you had been, we had been, they had been, he had been, she had been, or it had been. They are all had been. I had been drinking beer before the sake. You had been working hard before your vacation. We had been talking on the phone all night. He had been well before the accident. It had been 8 years since we met. Okay, let's try a little quiz. Number 1. Where were you? We, nani nani, been waiting for you since 10 o'clock. Do you think that is have been, has been, or had been? Where were you? We have been waiting for you since 10 o'clock. Number 2. They, nani nani, been living in Boston until they moved in 1984. They had been living in Boston. The reason that is had is this. So before they lived in Boston, but before now, back in 1984, they moved out of Boston. So they lived in Boston in the past, but they also left Boston in the past. So it's they had been living. Number 3. She, nani nani, been writing the answer for 20 minutes. She have been, she has been, she had been, she has been. Number 4. When I went home, she, nani nani, been cooking for 5 hours. When I went home, she had been cooking for 5 hours. Number 5. Samurai, nani nani, been feared and respected in the Edo period. Samurai, nani nani, been feared and respected in the Edo period. Samurai had been feared and respected in the Edo period. Number 6. She, nani nani, been to both Sweden and Norway. She has been to both Sweden and Norway. All right, good job. Now, let's have a quick look at your worksheet. On the left-hand side of your sheet, you have a review of have been and has been, as well as had been. Remember, for have been and has been, they are used when something started in the past and is still happening. But for has been, it is used when an action happened before another action and they are both in the past. Now, look at these pictures and make sentences. The first sentence has to be a had been. So I wrote, I had been looking at my phone when I hit the bicycle. Next, you have this picture of a man breaking a golf club, and you need a has been sentence. Next, please write a had been sentence for the dentist. Then, a have been sentence for this pretty waitress. And lastly, please write a had been sentence for this people in the meeting. Lastly, I want to know, what have you been doing now that you are social distancing and staying home? It must have been a very different Golden Week than normal. So I want to know what you've been doing. All right, we're finished. So we're meeting up for a face-to-face chat on Thursday. The first class is at 6:30 and the second class is at 7:30. I hope all of you can make it. I also hope you're having a really good Golden Week. See you later, everyone. Take care. Be safe.